Commander Veltar stared at the massive shape floating in the darkness ahead. His ship, the Harmony's Edge, was not small. It carried a crew of 200 beings from across the galaxy. But the thing in front of them made his vessel look like a tiny bug next to a giant beast. "Run the scans again," Veltar said to his science officer. Science Officer Lithana touched her control panel with 4 thin fingers. Her blue skin glowed softly as she worked. She was Nexari, one of the smartest races in the galaxy. If anyone could understand what they were looking at, it would be her. "The readings are the same, Commander," she said. Her voice was calm, but Veltar could hear worry in it. "The ship is 12 kilometers long, 4 kilometers wide. The hull is made of materials we do not know. And sir, there are life signs." Inside, Veltar felt his stomach drop. The ship had been floating here in the Andorian Nebula for who knows how long. Nothing should be alive in there. "How many life signs?" he asked. 3, very faint, deep inside the ship. Behind them, War Leader Krathson snorted. The big Zephyrian had green scales and sharp teeth. His people were warriors, but they had not fought a real war in over 1,000 years. Now they mostly kept peace in the galaxy. "Probably just some lost traders," Krathson said. "We board the ship, rescue them, and go home." Veltar was not so sure. He had been exploring space for 30 years. He had seen many strange things, but this ship felt different. Wrong somehow. "Show me the outside scans," he told Lithana. The main screen lit up with images of the huge ship. Veltar's breath caught in his throat. The hull was covered in scars. Deep cuts ran along the sides like claw marks from some giant monster. Holes the size of buildings were burned through the armor. In some places, the metal looked melted and twisted. "This ship has been in battle," whispered Dr. Nelthera. The Altarian doctor was the 3rd member of Veltera's senior team. Her people were peaceful and wise. They had not seen real war in even longer than the others. But what could do this much damage? "And how is it still in one piece?" added Lithana. Veltar studied the images. The damage was incredible. Any ship he knew would have been destroyed by far less. But this vessel was still mostly whole. Its shape was strange too. It's not smooth and curved like galactic ships, but angular and sharp. "It looked like it was built for war, sir," Lithana said suddenly. "I am picking up power readings from inside. Something is still working in there." "Weapons?" asked Krathson, his hand moving to his sidearm. "I cannot tell. The hull is blocking most of my scans. But there is definitely active technology." Veltar made his decision. "Prepare a boarding party. Full environmental suits. Krathson, bring. Security. Dr. Nelthera, medical kit. Lithana, bring your scanning equipment." "What about backup?" asked Krathson. "Send a message to Fleet Command. Tell them what we found. If we do not report back in 12 hours, they should send a full investigation team." As his crew prepared, Veltar kept staring at the alien ship. There was writing on the hull. Strange. Symbols he had never seen before. Most were too damaged to read. But one section near what looked like the front was clear. 5 simple marks that meant nothing to him. Chuaman. An hour later, their shuttle moved toward the massive ship. Up close, it was even more frightening. The hull stretched away in all directions like a metal mountain. The holes in its armor were big enough to fly their shuttle through. "There," said Krathson, pointing with one clawed finger. "That breach. Look stable. We can enter there." The hole in the ship's side was enormous. Their shuttle flew inside easily. Out. Their lights lit up a space so big it could hold their entire ship. Twisted metal and strange machinery filled the area. "Some kind of hangar bay," said Dr. Nelthera. "But look at the size of it. What kind of beings need this much space?" They landed their shuttle on a flat section of floor. The artificial gravity inside the alien ship was working, which was good, but it felt heavy. Heavier than any of their ships. "Air is breathable," reported Lithana, checking her instruments. "But I recommend keeping our suits on. There are strange particles in the atmosphere." They stepped out of their shuttle and into the alien ship. Their lights cut through complete darkness. The air was still and cold. Everything was quiet except for the sound of their breathing. "This way," said Krathson, following a scanner. "Toward the life signs. The survivors are deep inside." maybe 10 kilometers. They walked through corridors that were twice as tall as they needed to be. The walls were covered in more of the strange writing. Some sections had pictures that looked like star maps, others showed what might be technical diagrams. "Wait," said Lithana, stopping at one wall. "These are not random marks. This is language, and these numbers ... They're mathematical formulas, very advanced ones. Can you read any of it?" asked Veltar. "Some of the math, yes. But the language? It is completely unknown. I've never seen anything like it in any galactic database." They kept walking deeper into the ship. The corridors branched and twisted like a maze. Sometimes they passed rooms filled with massive machines. Other times they saw what looked like weapons. Huge metal things with barrels as wide as their shuttle. "What kind of war were they fighting?" whispered Dr. Nalthara. "And with who?" added Krathson. The deeper they went, the more uncomfortable Veltar became. This ship was not just big. It was built by minds that thought differently than any race he knew. Everything was oversized, overarmed, overbuilt, like whoever made it expected to fight enemies that could destroy planets. After 2 hours of walking, they reached what looked like a main corridor. It was even bigger than the others, with moving walkways that were not working. The walls here were covered in more writing, but also with something else. Pictures of beings. "Are these the ship's builders?" asked Dr. Nalthara. Veltar studied. The images. The creatures looked somewhat like Altarians, but different. They stood on 2 legs and had 2 arms, but they were taller and thicker. Their faces showed emotions he could recognize. Anger, determination, something that might be joy. "They look tense," said Lithana. "They look dangerous," corrected Krathson. At the bottom of each picture was that same word again. Humahan. "The life signs are just ahead," reported Krathson. Through those doors, the doors were massive, made of metal thicker than their shuttle's hull, but they were partially open. Darkness lay beyond. Veltar took a deep breath. "Stay alert. We do not know what we will find." They stepped through the doors and into the unknown. Behind them, deep in the ship's core, ancient systems began to wake up. 3 beings stirred in their sleep pods, their enhanced minds slowly returning to consciousness after centuries of dreams. The humans were awakening, and the galaxy would never be the same. Deep inside the battleship, Ginha opened his eyes. The world came back to him slowly. First, the soft blue glow of his cryopod, then the quiet hum of machines keeping him alive. Finally, the cold touch of metal tubes pulling away from his arms and chest. His enhanced mind processed information faster than any normal human could. 312 years, 4 months, and 16 days. That was how long he had been asleep. The ship's computer whispered the numbers directly into his brain through the neural implant. Behind his ear, Jinha sat up carefully. His body felt strange after so long in sleep, but the genetic improvements his people had given him were working. His muscles remembered their strength. His bones had not weakened. He was still human, but a human built for war and survival. "Status report, Ares," he said to the air. The ship's artificial intelligence responded with a voice like distant thunder. 3 crew members remain in active status. Ship systems are at minimal power. Hull integrity is at 67%. We have visitors. Visitors. Unknown alien species have boarded the vessel. It's 3 different races. They appear peaceful, but are armed. They are currently moving toward this section. Ginha stood up and stretched around him. 2 other cryopods were opening. White mist poured out as the life support system shut down. Harin emerged from the second pod. She was smaller than Ginha, but moved with the quick grace of a trained fighter. Her dark hair was short and practical. Scars on her hands showed years of combat medicine. She had saved more human lives than most people had ever met. "How long?" she asked, checking the weapons built into her forearms. "Over 3 centuries, Jinha replied. Harin nodded like this was normal. To her, it probably was. She had been born on a generation ship. Time was just another resource to manage. The third pod opened with a loud hiss. Quan stepped out. and the temperature in the room seemed to drop. He was tall and lean, with eyes that saw everything and forgot nothing. His job had been simple: kill anything that threatened humanity. He had been very good at his job. The mission, Quan asked. Still active, Ares responded. The last human colony ships reached the galactic edge 17 years ago. Long-range sensors detect no human signals. The great exodus is complete. Felt a familiar pain in his chest. They had known this day would come. Humanity had grown too large, too diverse, too dangerous for one galaxy. The different human branches had begun to fight each other. Some wanted to transcend physical form entirely. Others wanted to conquer everything they could reach. A few just wanted to find new homes among distant stars, so they had all left. Every human ship, every colony, every trace of their civilization. They had given the galaxy back to the other species and gone to find their own destiny elsewhere. Except for ships like this one, guardian ships, left behind to watch and wait. Show me our visitors, Haran said. A wall screen lit up with images from the ship's internal cameras. The three humans watched as 4 alien beings walked through their corridors. They moved carefully, respectfully. Their equipment was clearly for science, not war. Nexaria, Zephyr, and Altarian Quan identified them. The 3 species that inherited our territory. Shdinha studied the aliens. They looked so young. Not in years, but in experience. Their movements were too trusting. Their weapons were clearly designed to disable, not kill. These were people who had never faced a real threat. They are descendants of the species we protected, Haran said, reading data from her medical scanner. Genetic markers show human intervention in their development. We saved their ancestors from dying worlds, and now they rule the galaxy, Quan observed. There was no anger in his voice, just fact. Ginha accessed the ship's long-range sensors. What he saw made his enhanced heart beat faster. At the edge of galactic space, something was moving. Ships with familiar energy signatures. Weapons patterns he recognized. Technology that could only be human, but not the humans who had left peacefully. Ares analyzed these sensor readings. He commanded. Analysis complete. The ship's match remnant. Fleet configurations. Estimated arrival at galactic border, 6 months, 2 weeks, 4 days. No, cursed in 3 languages. The remnant were humans who had refused to join the Great Exodus. They had stayed behind in dark space, hidden between galaxies. For 3 centuries, they had fought things that most humans could not even imagine. They had grown hard and cold and angry. They are coming back, Quan said quietly. But not to make peace, Jinha added. The 3 humans looked at each other. They had been left behind for exactly this possibility. If humanity ever returned to reclaim the galaxy, someone needed to be here to decide what happened next. Were the current inhabitants worthy of protection, or were they just obstacles to be removed? The visitors have reached the outer doors, Ares reported. Jinha made a decision. Let them in. But keep the defenses ready. Are we revealing ourselves? Haran asked. Not yet. Let us see what kind of people they are. Through the cameras, they watched the 4 aliens enter the cryo bay. The aliens' lights swept across empty pods and sleeping machinery. They were clearly amazed by the technology, but also respectful. They did not touch things unnecessarily or try to take anything. The blue-skinned female, Lithana, was scanning. Everything with scientific instruments. These pods are incredible, she said to her companions. The life support systems are more advanced than anything we have. Whoever built this could have slept for thousands of years. But where are the survivors? Asked the Altarian doctor. The life signs were definitely here, the Zephyrian warrior confirmed. Ginha watched them with growing interest. These aliens were not conquerors. They were explorers. They had found a mysterious ship and come aboard not to steal or destroy, but to help and understand, very different from what the remnant would do. Show them more, Haran suggested. Test them. Ginha nodded and accessed the ship's information systems. Slowly, he began to reveal the truth about what they had found. Historical records appeared on wall screens. Images of human colonies spreading, across the galaxy. Technical specifications of weapons that could crack planets. Battle reports from wars that had consumed entire star systems. Through the cameras, they watched the aliens' reactions. Fear, yes, but also wonder. And something else that Ginha had hoped to see. Sadness. These aliens were sad that such an advanced civilization had vanished. They were not happy that humanity was gone. They mourned the loss of knowledge and culture. They passed the first test, Quan said. But the real test is coming, Heren pointed out. When the remnant arrive, will these people fight? Will they surrender and let our kind take everything back? Jinha studied the aliens on the screen. Commander Veltar was examining human star charts with careful attention. He was not just looking at territory. He was trying to understand the minds that had created such complex strategies. We have a choice to make, Jinha said finally. We can prepare the galaxy for human reconquest, or we can prepare it for human protection. The remnant will not like it if we choose protection, Quan warned. Then we had better make sure the galaxy is ready to defend itself, Horan replied. The screen, the four aliens continued their careful exploration. They did not know that their entire future was being decided by three humans watching from the shadows, but they were about to find out. What it truly meant to encounter humanity's fire. Commander Veltar stepped into the largest room he had ever seen. The ceiling stretched up so high that their lights could not reach it. Walls covered in screens surrounded them on all sides. Most were dark, but some still glowed with star maps. That showed the entire galaxy. By the ancient gods, whispered Dr. Nalthera. This is a command center. Lithana ran her scanner over the nearest console. The computing power here is incredible. This single room has more processing ability than our entire fleet. Krathson pointed at the star maps with his clawed finger. Look at these charts. They show every system, every planet, every asteroid field. But there are marks we do not recognize. Veltar moved closer to study the maps. Red symbols marked certain star systems. Blue ones marked others. Green lines connected different regions, like roads between cities. But it was the yellow marks that made his blood run cold. They were everywhere, thousands of them. These yellow marks, he said slowly, they are on every inhabited world we know. Strategic analysis points, Lithana read from her scanner. Population centers, resource locations, military installations, defensive capabilities. The room went silent. They were looking at invasion plans, complete, detailed plans for conquering the entire galaxy. Who were these beings? Dr. Nalthera asked in a small voice. Lithana connected her equipment to one of the working consoles. Data flowed across her scanner faster than she could read it. I am accessing their historical records. This might take some time to translate. She worked. The others explored the command center. Krathson found weapon control stations with screens showing the firepower of their ship. The numbers were so large they seemed like mistakes. This single ship carries enough weapons to destroy our entire homeworld, he reported. Not just the cities, the whole planet. Dr. Nalthera discovered medical stations with biological data on hundreds of species. They studied everyone, every race in the galaxy. They knew our weaknesses, our diseases, our genetic structures. Veltar found the captain's chair in the center of the room. It was built for someone much larger than any of them. When he sat in it, screens came alive around him. Gentle voice spoke in the strange language they could not understand.
Translation.
Coming through, Lithana called out. I am connecting to their language databases. The voice spoke again, and this time, words appeared on the screens in Galactic Standard Language. Welcome to the Bridge of the Defiance Wrath, flagship of the Terran Expeditionary Fleet. State your identification and purpose. Terran. Repeated. I have never heard that word. It is their species name, Lithana said, reading from her scanner. They called themselves humans, and Commander, you need to see this historical data. The main screen filled with images that changed. Everything they thought they knew about galactic history. Pictures of vast human cities on thousands of worlds. Fleets of ships that stretched from star to star. Colonies in places so dangerous that no other species could survive. But it was not conquest they were seeing. It was protection, the records. Showed humans rescuing the ancestors of the Nexari from a dying sun. Human ships evacuating Zephyrian colonies when their homeworld was hit by a plague. Human doctors saving the Altarian species when genetic damage almost destroyed them completely. They were not conquerors, Dr. Nelthara said in wonder. They were guardians, but why did they leave? Asked Krathson. Lithana found the answer in the later records. Internal conflict. The human species was changing. Some wanted to become pure energy beings. Others wanted to conquer everything they could find. A few groups wanted to find new galaxies to explore. The screen showed the Great Exodus. Millions of human ships leaving the galaxy in all directions, not in anger or defeat.
How they left.
They left because they knew their conflicts would destroy everything they had protected. They gave us the galaxy, Veltar realized, and left so we could live in peace. There is more, Lithana said, her voice shaking. Recent sensor data from the galactic edge. Commander, something is coming back. New images appeared on the screen. Dark ships moving through empty space between galaxies. Their design was human, but changed. Harder, more aggressive. These ships looked like they were built only for war. The remnant Lithana read from the data files, humans who refused to leave. They have been fighting ... things. In the dark spaces between galaxies for over 300 years. Fighting what? Asked Dr. Nelthara. The records are not clear, but whatever they faced out there, it changed them, made them harder, colder. They are coming back to reclaim what their ancestors left behind. Veltar felt sick. His peaceful galaxy, where the three great species had lived in harmony for 1,000 years, was about to face something it was not prepared for. How long do we have? He asked. 6 months? Maybe less. Krathson laughed, but there was no humor in it. 6 months. To prepare for a war against beings who conquered half the galaxy once already? We might as well surrender now. No, said a new voice. They spun around to see 3 figures standing in the doorway. Tall, bipedal, with faces that looked almost familiar. The beings from the pictures on the walls, humans. The one in front was young-looking but had old eyes. He wore simple clothes, but there was something about him that made Veltar want to salute. My name is Jinha, the human said, in perfect galactic standard. I am an engineer of the Terran Expeditionary Fleet. We have been waiting for you. Behind him stood a female human with quick, intelligent eyes, and a male who moved like a predator. All 3 looked at the galactic visitors with expressions that were hard to read. You have been watching us, Veltar said. It was not a question. Yes. We needed to know what kind of people you were, whether you deserved protection or conquest. And Dr. Nelthara asked quietly. The female human, Haren, stepped forward. You passed the first test. You came to help, not to take. He showed respect for what you found. You mourned the loss of knowledge instead of celebrating an empty galaxy. But tests mean nothing if you cannot fight, added the male human. Quan. His voice was cold as space. Ginha moved to the command console and touched it with practiced ease. The screens around them came fully alive, showing tactical displays. That hurt to look at. The remnant are coming. They expect to find the same weak, peaceful species that our ancestors protected. They plan to sweep you aside like dust. Can you stop them? Veltar asked. We are 3 humans on 1 damaged ship, Jinha replied. Against a fleet that has been hardened by 3 centuries of war. No, we cannot stop them. Then why are you telling us this? Krathson demanded. Jinha smiled, and for the first time, Veltar saw something that looked like hope. Oh. Because we are not going to stop them. We are going to teach you how to stop them yourselves. The command center fell silent except for the hum of ancient machines. The remnant think they are coming. Home to an easy conquest, Haren said. Instead, they are going to find something they never expected. What? Asked Dr. Nelthara. Quan's predator smile was sharp as a blade. They are going to find humans who remember what it means to protect something worth dying for. On the screens, around them, star maps began to change. Strategic points appeared. Supply lines were drawn. Defensive positions were marked. The galaxy was about to learn what human fire really looked like, and this time it would be burning in defense of peace. 3 days after first contact, the Harmony's Edge had become a floating meeting ground between species. Commander Veltar sat across from Jinha in the ship's main conference room. The human was teaching him about war. "Your ships are beautiful," Jinha said, studying holographic displays of galactic fleet designs. "But they are built for exploration, not battle." "We have not needed to fight real wars for over 1,000 years, Veltar replied. "Why would we build for war?" Jinha touched. The controls and the displays changed. Now they showed human ship designs. Angular, armored, bristling with weapons. Because peace only lasts when people are ready to defend it. Across the room, Haran was working with Dr. Nalthera and a team of galactic doctors. She had connected her medical scanner to their computers and was showing them things that made them pale. "Human combat modifications," Haran explained. "Stronger bones made with metal fibers. Hearts that can pump liquid oxygen directly to muscles. Nervous systems that react 10 times faster than normal." "But these changes," Dr. Nalthera stammered, "they would be agony to live with." "Yes," Haran said simply. "We chose pain so others could live in peace." In the ship's weapon testing bay, Quan was demonstrating human combat techniques to a group of Zephorian warriors. The proud warrior race watched in stunned silence as the single human moved through their practice course like a deadly dance. "Speed is not about moving fast," Quan explained as he disarmed 3 opponents at once. "It is about moving at the right time. Strength is not about being powerful. It is about using power wisely." War leader Krathson stepped forward. He was the best fighter among his people. "Show me," he challenged. The match lasted exactly 4 seconds. Krathson found himself on the floor, disarmed and helpless, without understanding how it happened. "Where people fight with honor," Quan said, helping the Zephyrian to his feet. "The remnant do not. They fight to win, no matter the cost." Meanwhile, Jinha continued his lessons with the command staff. He had connected the ship's computers to the Defiance Wrath, sharing centuries of human tactical knowledge. "Year 3. Species have one great strength," Jinha said. "You trust each other. You work together. Humans. We did not always do that." "Is that why your ancestors left?" asked Lithana. "Partly. We grew too different from each other. Some humans became living computers. Others became pure warriors. A few transcended physical form entirely. We could not share the same space anymore." He paused, looking at the mixed crew around the table, Nexaria, Zephyrian, and Altarian officers working side by side. "But you 3 species learned to be one people. That makes you stronger than any single human faction ever was. Strong enough to fight the remnant." Eltar asked Jin. Ha was quiet for a long moment. "Maybe, if you are willing to change. Change how?" "Your weapons disable enemies instead of destroying them. Your tactics assume the other side will be reasonable. Your soldiers fight to capture, not to kill." Jinha's voice became hard. "The remnant will see this as weakness and use it against." You want us to become killers," Dr. Nalthera said quietly. "I want you to survive," Jinha replied. "Sometimes survival requires difficult choices." Over the following days, more galactic ships arrived. Word of the human discovery had spread quickly. Soon a small fleet surrounded the ancient battleship. Representatives from all 3 major species came to learn what the humans could teach. Demjinha found himself giving the same lessons over and over. How to design ships that could take damage and keep fighting. How to train soldiers who would not break under pressure. How to make weapons that ended threats permanently. "This feels wrong," Admiral Bethsara of the Altarian fleet said during one meeting. "You're talking about abandoning everything our civilizations stand for." "Your civilizations stand for peace," Haran replied. "Sometimes protecting peace requires violence. But if we become like them, how are we different from the remnant?" It was Quan who answered, "Because we choose when to stop." That evening, Jinha stood alone on the observation deck of the Harmony's Edge, looking out at the growing fleet. Ships from across the galaxy had come to prepare for war. But he could see the doubt in their crews' faces. These people had never known real conflict. Haran joined him at the viewing window. "They are scared," she said. "They should be. Fear keeps you alive in battle. Will it be enough?" "Everything we are teaching them." Jinha was quiet for a long time. Through the ship's hull, he could feel the gentle vibration of the Defiant's wrath, powering up its weapon systems. For the first time in 3 centuries, the human battleship was preparing for war. "I do not know," he said finally. "The Remnant have been fighting nightmares in dark space for longer than these people have had. Interstellar flight. They have become something harder than the humans who left this galaxy. But they have forgotten something important. They have been fighting monsters for so long, they forgot how to protect innocent people." Haren nodded. "And these galactic species still remember how to hope. Hope is a weapon, if you know how to use it." The next morning brought terrible news. Long-range sensors detected the Remnant fleet at the galactic edge. They were moving faster than expected, using technology that bent space around their ships. 2 months, reported Lethana from the Defiant's Wrath's sensor station. Maybe less. The galactic fleet commanders gathered for an emergency meeting. Fear filled the room like smoke. They had thought they had 6 months to prepare. Now they had weeks. "We are not ready," Admiral Bethsara said. "Our people barely understand the new weapons. Our ships are still being modified." "Then we make our stand with what we have," Jinha replied. "Against a fleet that conquered half the galaxy once before?" Kratzen's voice was bitter. "This is madness." "Yes," Quan agreed. "But it is our madness." Jinha stood and activated the holographic display. It showed the current positions of both fleets. The Remnant forces were vast, dark shapes moving through empty space like a plague of metal insects. "The Remnant expect to find the same weak species their ancestors protected," Jinha said. "They plan to sweep through the galaxy like a storm, taking whatever they want. And instead," asked Veltar, "instead they will find something they never expected to face." "What?" Jinha's smile was sharp as broken glass. "They will find humans who chose to stay and fight." The room fell silent.
Outside.
The combined galactic fleet hung in space like a wall of stars. Nexari science ships worked alongside Zephyrian battlecruisers and Altarian medical vessels. 3 species that had learned to work as one. "The Remnant think they are coming home," Harn said quietly. "But this is not their home anymore. It belongs to people who know what it means to build something worth protecting. And if we lose," Dr. Nelthera asked. Quan's answer was simple and final. "Then we make sure they remember the cost." On the screens around them, tactical displays showed the approaching enemy. Hundreds of dark ships filled with humans who had forgotten mercy. But waiting for them was something the Remnant had never faced before, other humans who remembered what they were fighting for. The galaxy was about to witness the rarest sight in the universe. Humans fighting humans for the right to protect others, and only one side would remember what it meant to be truly human when the battle was over. The Remnant fleet emerged from dark space like a disease spreading across the stars. 700 ships, each one built for maximum destruction. They moved in perfect formation, their black holes drinking in the light of distant suns. On the bridge of the Defiant's Wrath, Jinha watched the enemy approach. Around him, the 3 galactic species worked together at human-built control stations. 2 months of desperate preparation had changed them. The fear in their eyes had been replaced by something harder. Determination. "All ships report ready," announced Commander Veltar from his position at the communications station. The galactic fleet stretched out in defensive positions around 3 inhabited star systems. 1,200 ships from 3 different species, united under human tactical doctrine. "Incoming transmission," reported Lithana from the sensor station. The main screen flickered to life, showing a face that made Jinha's blood run cold. The speaker looked human, but wrong somehow. His skin was pale as starlight, and his eyes were empty of everything except hunger. Cybernetic implants covered half his skull. "I am Fleet Admiral Torvin of the Remnant Armada," the figure said in perfect galactic standard. "We have returned to reclaim what was stolen from us. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick." Jinha stepped forward where the transmission could see him. I am Engineer Jinha of the Terran Expeditionary Fleet. This galaxy is under human protection. If you want it, you will have to take it from us. Torvin's empty eyes focused on Jinha with interest. Ah, guardianship crew. We wondered if any of you were still alive, smiled, showing teeth that had been replaced with metal. Tell me, little guardian, do you really think your handful of primitives can stand against us? We have been forged in the fires of war for 3 centuries. Maybe Jin, Ha replied calmly. But you forgot something important during all that fighting.
Right.
You forgot what you were supposed to be protecting. Torvin's laugh was like breaking glass. Protection is weakness. We learned that lesson well. The universe is filled with things that want to devour everything good and peaceful. The only way to survive is to become more dangerous than they are. Behind Jinha, Haran spoke quietly. What did you become to survive out there? We became what we needed to be, Torvin replied. We became death itself. Transmission cut off. Around the bridge, alarms began to sound. The remnant fleet was accelerating toward them. All ships, battle stations, Jinha commanded. Remember what we taught you. Fight for each other. Fight for your homes. Fight like humans. The first exchange. A fire lit up space like a new star being born. Remnant ships unleashed weapons that tore holes in reality itself. Their dark energy beams cut through 3 galactic ships before the fleet could respond. But the galactic species had learned well. Instead of breaking formation, they adapted. Nexari science vessels provided shield support, while Zephyrian battlecruisers returned fire with human-designed weapons. Altarian medical ships moved to rescue survivors, just as humans had once rescued their ancestors. They fight better than expected, Quan observed from the weapon control station. The Defiant's wrath was holding back, letting the galactic fleet take the lead. This was their fight to win or lose. Good, Jin, Ha replied, but the real test is coming. He was right. The remnant fleet suddenly changed tactics. Instead of engaging the military ships, they began targeting civilian evacuation vessels, fleeing the inhabited systems.
Oh.
They are attacking non-combatants. Dr. Nelthera reported in horror.
Ask the standard remnant doctrine,
Harin said grimly. Break the enemy's will by threatening what they love. This was the moment Jinha had feared. Would the galactic species abandon their formation to protect civilians? Would they scatter their forces and allow themselves to be defeated in detail? Commander Veltar's voice rang out across the fleet communications. All Nexari science vessels form protective screen around evacuation routes. Zephyrian battle groups. Maintain formation and continue primary attack. Altarian medical ships coordinate refugee rescue operations. Jinha felt something warm spread through his chest. Pride. The galactic species were not breaking. They were adapting, protecting their people while maintaining. Tactical discipline. It was the most human thing he had ever seen from non-humans. The battle raged for 6 hours. Ships died on both sides, their hulls cracking open to spill atmosphere and crew into the void. But slowly, impossibly, the galactic fleet began to push the remnant forces back. How? Demanded Torvin during another transmission. It's perfect. The face was cracked now, showing the strain of unexpected resistance. These primitives should have broken hours ago. They learned from humans, Jinha replied, but not the humans you became. They learned from the humans we chose to remain. Impossible. You are 3 people on 1 damaged ship. No, Jinha said quietly. We're 3 people who remembered what it means to be human, and we taught them. Around the bridge, the mixed crew of galactic species worked together with perfect efficiency. Veltar coordinated fleet movements, while Ithana provided tactical analysis. Dr. Nelthera managed casualty reports and evacuation procedures. Krathson led fighter squadrons with courage that would have made any human proud. They had become something new, not human, but carrying the best parts of what humanity could be. Final transmission, Torvin's image, appeared one last time. His ship was damaged, leaking atmosphere from multiple breaches. Around him, the remnant fleet was in full retreat. This galaxy was our birthright. Our ancestors built everything you now protect. Your ancestors left because they knew the galaxy was better without them, Haran replied. Just like you should do now. You will return, with more ships, more weapons. We will not make the mistake of underestimating you again. It was Quan who answered, his voice calm as still water. When you return, you will find us waiting. We will be ready. The remnant fleet vanished into dark space, leaving behind only wreckage and the echo of their defeat. In the aftermath, Jinha stood once again on the observation deck of the Harmony's Edge, but this time he was not alone. Representatives from all three galactic species stood with him, looking out at the stars they had successfully defended. What happens now? Asked Veltar. Now you continue what you started, Jinha replied. You build, you explore, you protect each other. You remember that peace is worth fighting for. And you, what will you do? Jinha looked at Haran and Quan. They had made their choice during the battle, instead of trying to contact the other. Human factions scattered across distant galaxies, they had chosen to stay. To remain as guardians of the peace their ancestors had made possible. We will be here, Jinha said simply, watching, waiting, making sure that when the next threat comes, you will be ready to face it. Dr. Nathara stepped forward. Will you teach us more? About being human? Jinha smiled. You do not need to be human. You have something better. What? You have learned to be yourselves, but with human fire burning in your hearts. The fire that says you will never surrender, never give up, never stop protecting what you love. Years later, when historians wrote about the Battle of the Three Systems, they would call it the day the galaxy learned to fight like humans. But Jinha knew the truth was simpler. It was the day three species remembered, what their ancestors had always known, that the greatest victory is not conquering your enemies. It is choosing what is worth protecting, never letting it go. The humans had returned to the galaxy not as conquerors, but as teachers. And they had taught the greatest lesson of all, that being human is not about what species you are born as. It is about the fire you choose to carry. And in a galaxy where three different species now burned with human determination, that fire would never go out. The stars themselves would remember their names.